Oh my goodness. So this is like take 2 or 3, maybe even 4 of me trying to sit down and talk about this trad wife trend, which is something that I have been wanting to talk about for a while now. So let's just jump right in. So online for the past couple years, I have been hearing a lot of buzz about the quote unquote trad wives. And so I wanted to take a step back and look at the bigger picture of things. Some people really like this label, while others not so much. But I've noticed something deeper going on with this trend and this term, and it's made me reflect a lot about what it means to be a Christian woman. I'm not saying this path is for everyone. I know that some people would rather go and work outside the home and they would be completely fine with that, and that is great. But for me personally, I have found a lot of peace just being able to stay at home with my kids and take care of the house. I chose homemaking not because it was trendy, but because it's just something that makes the most sense for me and my family. I've never actually been called a trad wife, but I feel like that's something that a lot of people assume that I am at first glance, which is perfectly valid because I do go around a lot of times wearing dresses and skirts, and I have, kids that I'm carrying all the time. So, I mean, of course it makes sense. And at first glance, honestly, the term does sound innocent, right? I think of a woman who bakes sourdough bread and likes to sew, maybe has a garden and a homestead, wants to homeschool her children or already does. And all that stuff really does resonate with me. But I've really come to realize that it's not supposed to be about a trend. It's about a calling from God. Now, something to know about me is that I actually grew up in the Eastern Orthodox Church. However, I feel like I did absorb a lot of the things that society was putting out there as far as how you're supposed to live your life, the morals and values you're supposed to have, etc. And one idea that especially stuck with me is that a woman is supposed to find her identity and success in building a career, which, like I said, that is for some women. However, I did not find peace with that, and in fact, it made me anxious and honestly afraid for my future. I didn't really have a strong idea of what family life was supposed to look like. I thought that I would find the career that I absolutely loved. I would then later get married, have kids, and somehow blend my career into family life and raising the kids. And it was supposed to work out. However, I met my now husband, we started dating and talking about our future together, and we both decided that what would really be nice is if I could stay home and take care of the house and raise the children. So when I was 6 months pregnant with my oldest daughter, I decided to resign from my job at a domestic violence shelter. It was an interesting season in my life because I had never just stayed home and did things around the house. Of course, I was 6 months pregnant, so I was starting to feel a bit big and a lot more tired as time went by, but it was still a very interesting and eye-opening experience for me. But I will say that I felt a lot of peace, and I did love being able to just relax and do things around the house as needed. However, I do recognize that not all women have this privilege to be able to stay at home, and I do recognize that I am very blessed and I am so thankful for it. Another thing that I've come to realize is that true femininity isn't a weakness. It's a strength, but it's a different kind of strength that the world doesn't quite recognize. Even when I was younger and not really practicing the faith, I still felt anxious about going out into the world all by myself. But when I met my husband and we started dating and talking about our future, I started to feel more secure and at peace. I was able to embrace my femininity and I felt like my femininity complemented his masculinity. The Orthodox Church, in fact, has really helped me to see that it isn't about someone being more valuable or better than the other. We each have our roles, and they are just what come naturally to us. For instance, the husband is supposed to be like Christ. Christ sacrifices and he loves us. He'd do anything for the church. And the woman is supposed to be like the church. She is receptive and nurturing. And so hand in hand, this is the natural balance of things. We have different roles, but we are absolutely equal in the eyes of God. Which leads me to my next point. There are things that I absolutely love about the trad wife trend. I love how simple and simplistic it is. I love how things are made from scratch or they're homemade. And I just love the overall beauty of it, the beauty of going back to nature and just doing things as they once were done. And I know that many women feel the same way as I do. I think that we've all kind of gotten so fed up with this hustle culture that it's nice to really just be able to take a step back and live a simpler life if we can. But to be completely honest, something about this trend felt a little off, and I think I've finally been able to pinpoint what it is. I think part of it feels too curated and almost artificial or unrealistic. Like it's just another aesthetic, some identity to try on, and then once you get tired of it, to just move on to something else. And I'm not saying that it's like this for all women who fall under the trad wife category. I'm just saying that for some women, yes, they do embrace this type of aesthetic. And when it's not trendy, maybe they will just let it go. For instance, first it was the girl boss era, and now it seems it's the trad wife era. So we've kind of gone and swung in the other direction, so to speak. But like I said, don't get me wrong, I don't think that every woman in this space is trying to curate their lives and make them look absolutely perfect. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm trying to get my point across about is that sometimes it can be really hard to tell when something is curated and something isn't, especially on social media. So we just have to be aware and be careful of that, because if you feel like you aren't reaching your goals, or you feel down or bad about yourself, especially after watching other women online who seem like they're accomplishing and doing so many things that you just can't do or aren't able to accomplish, I just want you to be able to put these things in perspective, that they probably have help, they probably have a script or someone to come over to watch the kids, to clean the house, and so they're not doing that all alone, and that is okay because it works for them, but it just might not work for you. And I certainly feel bad sometimes myself, but then I try to remember this perspective and it does make me feel a bit better. I've never felt like I need to dress a certain way, or I've never felt pressured by anybody. However, I do have a certain conviction and I do want to dress modestly because I know that that is pleasing to God, and it also just feels right to me. And so that's what I do, and that's why I dress the way that I do. Not to fit into the trad wife mold, but to fit into what I think is pleasing to God. And the real truth is that homemaking isn't glamorous. There are piles of dishes and laundry, the floors need to be swept and mopped and vacuumed, the kids need to be taken care of, there are tantrums, there are baths that need to be given, you know, all the things. There are so many different things that we have to worry about as homemakers and moms. And social media is just a snapshot of somebody else's life, a little glimpse into their lives and what it looks like. It's not the full big picture. I want my content to be realistic though, and I really try to make that happen. Of course, I don't show myself scrubbing a dirty toilet or something like that. But I do want you all to know that I try hard to make it seem realistic, and please forgive me if it has ever made you feel discouraged about your own life, because that is not my intention. I try my best, and I don't want anyone to think that I have it all figured out, because honestly, I don't. I just share what I love, some recipes, a bit of orthodoxy, motherhood and parenting, that sort of a thing. And I hope that someone finds some inspiration along the way. Which leads me to my next point. Why am I on the internet at all? Well, I do have a blog, as many of you know, and so that is the main reason why I'm online or on social media at all. My blog focuses mostly on food, but it does have a little bit of orthodoxy and some parenting tips in there as well. It's a dream of mine to get my blog monetized, and actually last month I did get it monetized. However, I'm really not bringing in much money from it, which is completely fine. I just want it to be a little side hustle and nothing that's going to make me super wealthy or rich. That's never been my intention. As far as YouTube goes, I genuinely love filming, editing, and uploading videos. And I actually haven't made any money with YouTube, which is completely fine, because my goal is to just provide some inspiration and a little bit of a look at my life, my typical life as a wife, mother, and homemaker. So what I'm trying to say is that there's a difference between the life of a trad wife who curates content just to put online for people to watch, and then there's also somebody who is genuinely striving to live a life that is Christ-centered. Even if I didn't have a blog or YouTube channel, believe me, I would still be living the life like I do right now. In fact, I did live this life for a few years before I even started my blog. For me, it's not about a trend, it's about my faith and the life that I want to live. A Christian woman is someone who is struggling daily to live a life that is pleasing to God. She falls down, she repents, and she gets back up again. She's learning to raise her children in the faith and walk alongside her husband. She's not perfect, but she's committed. So if you're ever feeling discouraged by seeing other women online who seem like their lives are really aesthetic and completely curated and perfect, just remember that this is social media and not reality. And talk to the real women in your life who are just living their day-to-day lives. You'll see that their homes are full of love and laughter, of course, but also there's probably some toys out of place or some dishes to be done or clothes to be folded, and that is perfectly okay. In fact, I think that there's beauty in the messy, realistic, genuine lives that we live. There is no perfect trad wife mold to fit into. All trends pass, just like I'm sure this one will. But what matters is the eternal kind of beauty, striving for a life that is pleasing to God. This world is temporary, but we all know that God's kingdom is forever. And that's what we're really working towards. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, maybe share the video. And I will see you all again in the next one. Thank you and bye.